coast of Australia, in places beautiful beyond belief. From the glories of the Great Barrier Reef to the lush primeval rainforest of Daintree. From Lord Howe Island, an astonishing Pacific paradise, to Shark Bay, where wild dolphins weave their magic. These are some of Australia's greatest wonders. These are treasures of the coast. The Great Barrier Reef. It's the world's largest living organism, spanning some 348,000 square kilometers. So enormous it can be seen from space, and yet its miniature reef builders, the coral polyps, are barely visible to the naked eye. Limestone creations in myriad colors and shapes adorn this World Heritage Area for its length of more than 2,000 kilometers. These are both gardens and fortresses in which hundreds of thousands of creatures make their home. The reef is a combination of more than 2,400 individual reefs, most formed within the last 8,000 years. The outer barrier sits astride the edge of the continental shelf and acts as a giant buffer against open ocean currents, allowing corals to grow in the relatively sheltered waters. Over time, wind and currents heaped fine coral sediments onto the reef, creating wonders like Heron Island, a coral cay and one of the most southerly islands of the reef. For some, Heron Island is a place to nest. This reef is one of the world's major breeding grounds for both the green and loggerhead turtle. As many as 1,200 will lay eggs in these sands every summer. About 100 eggs are produced in each clutch. They're covered and incubated by the warmth of the sun for 6 to 7 weeks before the hatchlings emerge and scurry into the sea. Perhaps only 1 in 1,000 will survive to adulthood. They run the gauntlet of predators like black-tipped reef sharks lurking in the shallows. those turtles that survive will travel the Pacific Ocean for 12 years before returning to Heron Island to breed. Manta rays also cruise the shallows. Despite their imposing size, they're harmless filter feeders, herding plankton with their 5-meter-wide pectoral fins. To hunt and avoid being hunted, it helps to be camouflaged. Cuttlefish can transform their appearance within a second. They change color using minute skin cells called chromatophores, and they use their muscles to alter their surface texture. This ability to blend with the background makes the cuttlefish the reef's great master of disguise. The stonefish has but one disguise, that of an algae-covered rock. But when it's exposed against the sandy sea floor, it has a second line of defense, 13 venom-laden dorsal spines that can be fatal. Some creatures form unique relationships with other species. Clownfish shelter among the stinging tentacles of the anemone. A mucus coating on its scales protects the clown itself from being stung. This anglerfish has fins shaped like hands. Unable to chase its prey, it lures its victims with a dorsal fin shaped like a fishing rod, complete with a flap of tissue that wiggles like live bait. Mantis shrimps, or stomatopods, wield their claws like high-speed hammers. With the impact of small-caliber bullets, traveling at more than 1,000 centimeters a second, the claws punch through the tough crab shells to expose tasty morsels. Scattered over the central region of the Great Barrier Reef are the Whitsundays, more than 70 idyllic islands. But these are not your normal tropical islands. Rather than palms, the Whitsundays are clothed in eucalypt forest. And how did this land-based reptile get here, since it doesn't swim? More than 8,000 years ago, when sea levels were lower, these were elevated peaks on the edge of mainland Australia. Today, they are continental islands. The valley separating them from the mainland, covered by sea. The largest island in the group, called Whitsunday Island, is a joy to behold. At Hill's Inlet, the sea's pastel shades seep through the sand like an impressionist's watercolors. The stunning, pure silica white sands of Whitehaven Beach stretch for 6 kilometers. It's been rated one of the world's top 10 beaches. Beyond its idyllic shores lie more than 100 square kilometers of untamed wilderness, with a fascinating collection of plants and animals. The hoop pine is the iconic tree of the Whitsundays. Some live up to 450 years. Here, far from the mainland, they've been safe from logging. These isolated islands also offer protection to the rare beach stone curlew. It nests in grass thickets behind the shore. The birds rely on their camouflage to avoid the attentions of lace monitors, which prey on eggs and chicks. Born as a mountain range, this accidental marriage of stunning peaks and dazzling seas has been a resounding success. But these continental islands are merely part of the intricate fabric of the Great Barrier Reef. As it spreads further north, the continental shelf narrows and reefs are found closer to mainland shores, like here at the Low Isles. So close that the Teresian pigeon commutes 10 kilometers each day to mainland forests to feed. Every year, this pigeon migrates from Papua New Guinea to the Low Isles to nest. Here, its chicks are safe from the rainforest's prowling snakes and lizards. But they have not evaded all predators. The chick must be guarded around the clock. While one parent keeps watch, the other goes in search of food. The pigeons nest in mangroves, which protect not only this brood, but the entire reef system. Mangroves are highly salt-tolerant plants that grow at the interface between land and sea, both along the reef and on the neighboring coast. Once considered muddy wastelands, they're now recognized as vital to a healthy marine environment. They act as filters, preventing nutrients which run off the land in fresh water from disturbing the delicate balance of the reef. Unlike soil, mud doesn't allow air to reach the roots, so mangroves have devised a creative solution. Their roots grow upwards and, like snorkels, allow the plant to breathe. These are trees that survive against all odds. In addition to being a valuable buffer for the reef, they act as a nursery for many of its fish. As the sun peeks through the mangrove foliage, the Teresian pigeons gather in preparation for their daily flight to the mainland. Their journey will take them from the extraordinary riches of the Great Barrier Reef to another lush wonder just across the water. And that's the next destination on our journey too. Daintree National Park, a magical meeting of rainforest and reef. Covering more than 700 square kilometers, it lies at the heart of the World Heritage listed wet tropics of Queensland. It's a living link to the planet's distant past. Beneath the towering canopy, a primeval world from more than 50 million years ago, when Australia was still part of the southern supercontinent, Gondwana. In those times, Australia was warm, humid, and mostly covered in rainforest. As the continent became more arid, tropical rainforest disappeared from all but a few small areas. In the Daintree, the climate remained ideal and plant life continued to thrive. Little changed. Twelve of the planet's 19 primitive flowering plant families still grow here, more than anywhere else in the world. The forest is home to 30 different reptiles. The Boyd's forest dragon, found only in the Queensland tropics, favours insects. It clings to tree trunks in anticipation of passing prey. Daintree is also rich in colourful bird life, with more than 140 species. The southern cassowary, a rainforest relative of the emu, has been here for millions of years. It eats the fruit of about 100 different trees and vines, swallowing them whole. The seeds in its droppings play a critical role in the dispersal of many plant species. Insects too abound. Male stag beetles in suits of gleaming armor challenge each other for mating rights, while a leaf-green praying mantis observes the battle. The moist rainforest is a haven for amphibians. It's home to a quarter of all Australia's species. The northern barred frog's swimming ability keeps it one jump ahead of its predators. Rain is the lifeblood of this diverse environment. Rising up behind the jungle, Thornton Peak captures the moisture-laden onshore winds. The floating clouds dump between 4 and 5 meters of rain on the Daintree each year. Streaming down the mountain peak are dozens of crystal-clear creeks. Traveling along the waterways, we penetrate deep into the rainforest and discover a world of wildlife seldom seen by visitors to the park. A curious Kreft's turtle greets the newcomers to its stream. This tranquil environment is also a popular nursery for a family of Raja ducks. They seldom move from the water's edge, where they sieve the mud for worms. A forest kingfisher preens between feeding forays. A relative of the kookaburra, it feeds on beetles, bugs, and small reptiles. Spectacled flying foxes scramble among the understory, feasting on ripening cluster figs. Their rejects fall into the stream below. More seeds for the future growth in the forest. But plants cannot live on water alone. Trees also need sunlight to power their growth. With so little penetrating the canopy, they must compete for limited spaces at the top. As lean youngsters, the trees race towards the light, then muscle one another out of the canopy as their trunks thicken. Lacking the ability to climb the canopy on their own, bird's nest ferns catch a ride to the top in the boughs of a host tree. While we have a good understanding of life on the forest floor, the canopy remains a world of secrets. Just 40 meters above our heads, it is as unknown as the deep ocean and almost as inaccessible. Scientists have yearned to explore this dense, mysterious environment. And now, they can. This giant crane has been set up at Cape Tribulation to give researchers the ride of their lives and a unique view of what's been called the last biological frontier. Biologists like Mike Cermak can swoop and climb at will across a hectare of lush canopy. The crane's maneuverability and quiet motors mean he can sneak up on his subjects undetected.
It's incredibly diverse, very species rich. As you can see, this is a nice little example here. It's a stick insect, it's a large female. They're quite common here, both on the ground and at the canopy level. That's the most diverse habitat for insects actually, and they play a very important role in rainforest ecology. So they're very important. Without the insects, the rainforest probably wouldn't be what it is.
It's believed that there could be many hundreds of as yet undiscovered species of beetles living in the canopy. This is the biggest that we know of, the rhinoceros beetle. The males sport large horns, which they use to topple competitors. Many species of ants also live in the treetops. The most dominant are green tree ants. They construct nests of leaves bound together with silk produced by their own larvae. They vigorously defend their colonies and will attack aggressively if disturbed. While the tree ants work cooperatively, spiders work alone. Portia spiders hunt other spiders using some clever mimicry. They imitate the signals of the prey of their intended victims and wait for a gullible response. With 6 eyes that scan 360 degrees, the Portia's vision is far superior to that of most other spiders. It's creatures like this which have drawn scientists from all over the world to study the Daintree. Eventually, we may know as much about the rooftop of the forest as we know about its floor. This may be the last remnant of a bygone age, but its vibrancy has never diminished. It is our great fortune that this living museum of Australia's distant past has survived, with secrets still to be revealed. 7 million years ago, underwater volcanoes thrust a mountain range up out of the Pacific Ocean, 700 kilometers from the Australian mainland. The turbulent ocean has worn most of it away, but we're left with spectacular remnants. Lord Howe Island and its neighbor, Ball's Pyramid, are the peaks of the ancient mountain range. Just 11 kilometers long and 3 kilometers wide, Lord Howe is a lush and magnificent microcosm of life in the temperate Pacific. So remarkable is the concentration of life here that Lord Howe and its nearby islets have been listed as a World Heritage Area. The island's mountain slopes are festooned with rare and unusual plants. Its lagoons harbor the most exquisite gardens of coral. Its misty peaks teem with dozens of different types of seabirds. More breed here than anywhere else in Australia, and some inhabitants are found nowhere else on Earth. The formation of the island was a chance in a million for the birds. It provides a safe haven from storms, and its shallow lagoons brim with fish. Like the birds, some people arrive on Lord Howe and never leave. Naturalist photographer Ian Hutton came to this island 20 years ago as a weather observer.
For me, it's the real naturalist paradise. It's just got everything in such a compact unit. It's got the rainforest, it's got the seabird colonies, the marine life, spectacular geology and landforms, and all in a little package just 11 kilometres long.
Ian left his job monitoring the weather in favour of his passion, monitoring bird life. More than 170 species have been observed on Lord Howe. As many as 40 of them also breed here. One bird that has been particularly successful is the petite and exquisite white tern. It lives and plays in the trees in the valleys. On the rocky headlands, sooty terns are also playing the mating game. They're believed to be the most abundant seabirds in the world. Their feathers are not waterproof, so they can't remain afloat. They travel enormous distances and can stay aloft for years at a time, sleeping on the wing. Courtship is an aerial affair where the prospective couple zigzags about in synchronized flight. And which continues on the ground. Most spectacular of all is the soaring flight of the courting red-tailed tropic birds, showing off to attract a mate. This island has the world's largest breeding population of red-tailed tropics. Lord Howe is brushed by the cool currents of the Tasman Sea, but it also lies in the path of warm water, travelling south from the tropics. That's allowed coral to grow here, making this the world's southernmost coral reef. It's home to an astonishing mix of tropical and temperate marine creatures. More than 80 types of coral are found here, as well as 500 species of tropical fish. The bright colours of the moonwrasse, the nudibranch, and the butterfly fish allude to their tropical origins. They swim among temperate species, McCulloch's anemone fish, and the mosaic eels which peer from their grottos. Marine diversity is enhanced by passing schools of pelagic fish, like kingfish, visitors from the open ocean. Back in the forests, the white tern now has an egg to tend to. Curiously, the white tern doesn't build a nest. It lays its egg on a bare branch. and then balances precariously throughout a month of incubation. The tern favours tall lowland trees, Norfolk pines, even though there is a vast variety of forests to choose from. For such a small island, Lord Howe hosts an incredible diversity of vegetation, with hundreds of species of flowering plants, ferns and mosses. Pandanus have special roots which steady them in wet and unstable ground. The trunk is lifted well above the swamp by prop-like roots several meters high. From this tiny island comes the world's most popular indoor ornamental plant, the Kentia palm. Renowned for its elegance, it's one of the few palms from outside the tropics, making it ideal for homes in colder climates. The Kentia palm industry earns Lord Howe Island $1 million a year, providing a strong incentive to protect the forests. Above the palm forest, high on the open hillsides, the sooty terns now have chicks to protect. They fly low over any intruder, squawking their indignation. Masked boobies are much more relaxed parents. They camp on islands and rugged headlands where they're rarely disturbed, except for the occasional visit from Ian Hutton and helpers. Working with the National Parks Service, Ian and his team are gathering breeding information about this, the largest seabird to nest on the island.
Once a week we're visiting, recording when eggs are laid, when they hatch, and recording weights and measurements on the eggs and chicks. So it's basic data which hasn't been recorded for boobies anywhere in the world.
Except the sea.
C was the Coleman. The boobies have been breeding here for many hundreds of thousands of years, where there were no mammal predators and they have no instinct of what fear is, so when a human comes along they don't associate that with fear and they sit quite happily, quite unafraid.
In the tangled Kentia palm forest is the island's very own bird, the flightless Lord Howe Island woodhen. Like the masked booby, after thousands of years in a predator-free landscape, it had no experience of fear. But in 1788, all that changed with the arrival of humans. Since then, 9 of the island's 13 land bird species have become extinct. 20 years ago, the woodhen had dwindled to about 30 pairs and was facing extinction. A captive breeding program was set up, and there are now about 200 breeding pairs of Lord Howe Island woodhen in the wild. Back in the pine forest, a white tern chick has emerged from the egg and now balances in a small hollow in the branch. It has waited patiently, hungry for the small fish its parent has caught. Another day and a new generation in this Pacific paradise. Unspoiled and breathtakingly beautiful, Lord Howe Island is one of Australia's greatest coastal treasures. Eventually, these remnants will be claimed by the sea. They will stand here perhaps another 200,000 years. But who knows? By then, a new volcano may have given birth to another jewel in the ocean. Jutting out from the coast of Western Australia, Perrin Peninsula cradles the warm, shallow waters of Shark Bay. Here, searing desert sands meet the aquamarine Indian Ocean to form a unique, starkly beautiful natural wonder. The Shark Bay World Heritage Area covers some 22,000 square kilometres. It's a spectacular yet curious place, with beaches made of shells, some of the oldest life forms on Earth, and a bay where two great mammal species choose to meet. The tropical waters of Shark Bay have spawned a remarkable meadow, the largest and richest of its kind in the world. This is seagrass, and it feeds a very particular type of cow. The dugong, also known as the sea cow, is rare elsewhere but thrives here. There are some 14,000 in the bay, the greatest concentration in the world. The key to the dugong's success is the lushness and sheer variety of seagrasses, and to understand the dugong's grazing habits is to ensure its future. Today, the cows are being rounded up by marine zoologist Dave Holly and his team. Dave Holly's task is to locate and protect prime dugong habitat. Because dugongs forage over such large areas, the best way to discover their favorite spots is to track them by satellite. But first, the 300-kilogram animal must be fitted with a radio transmitter.
Certainly it's very stressful for the animal, and that's something that, you know, I'm concerned with all the time. But we have a team that's good at it now. The whole procedure takes under 15 minutes, so you can't really get better than that.
While Dave attaches the transmitter, at the other end the dugong is having its whiskers shaved. The hairs provide DNA samples, revealing who is breeding with whom. It's no easy task, especially when a venomous sea snake joins the party. The local Yadula Aborigines are joint partners in this project with the state's Conservation and Land Management Department.
Okay. All right. Ready?
The tag transmits a signal to satellites, and that satellite then relays that information back to a base station, and I can access that on the World Wide Web. So I can sit in my office and pull up the last location of where the animal has been. It does look a bit cumbersome, but the tag's neutrally buoyant. I've tried swimming with the tag and it's almost virtually unnoticeable.
The dugong will wear the tag for about 6 weeks, an unwitting participant in the internet revolution, helping scientists to ensure the future of the world's dugong population. The bay, warm and enclosed, is much saltier than the ocean, the reason for another of its wonders. These look like rocks, but they're not. Hamlin Pool is a 3.5 billion year step back to the dawn of life on Earth. These are stromatolites, the work of cyanobacteria, single-celled microbes that closely resemble one of the earliest life forms on the planet. Matted together, they trap shell and sand sediments to form mounds. Hamlin Pool is the only place where they are found in such numbers. They survive here because the salt is too much for their predators. Nonetheless, growing just 1 millimeter a year, they're vulnerable. A camel wagon was driven through here half a century ago, and the formations are still recovering. In this astonishing place, it comes as no surprise to find a beach made entirely of seashells. The billions of milky white shells belong to a small mollusk, the carded cockle. Like the stromatolites, its predators can't bear the salinity, so the cockle thrives. The empty shells are lifted from the seabed and dumped on shore when strong westerlies blow across Shark Bay. The crystal clear waters reveal all from above. Ospreys effortlessly ride the wind, shearing off the sloping cliffs, patrolling the coast in search of a meal. Scouring the tidal flats, a pair of pied oyster catchers. Their probing beaks prise mollusks out of the sand. Shark Bay is an important stopover for migratory species. The ruddy turnstone rests here on its 10,000-kilometer return flight to Siberia. True to its name, it unearths marine creatures by overturning small stones with its bill. But the pelican is a permanent resident. It is the jumbo jet of the bird world. Shark Bay's wild landscape holds the key to the future of many of Australia's most precious mammals. Here, a visionary attempt is underway to reverse the cycle of extinctions. Project Eden. Over the past 200 years, more than 20 of Australia's mammal species have become extinct. Many others are threatened by habitat destruction and introduced predators. Here, they're bred in safe compounds to be released into the wild. They're cared for by vet Colleen Sims.
We've managed to start some reintroductions for a number of species that were extinct from here, and we've actually allowed a lot of the ones that were still hanging on by the skin of their teeth to actually recover and bounce back to nice, secure numbers now.
The rufous hair wallaby, or marla, is one of the rarest marsupials. Once common, its numbers have dwindled to fewer than 400 individuals on mainland Australia. The bilby, or rabbit-eared bandicoot, was also once common, but is now threatened.
Bilbies are still persisting on mainland Australia, but their outlook doesn't look very rosy, because there's certainly lots of evidence of them decreasing in population over the last 50 years and still continuing to decline.
The key to Project Eden's success is the shape of Perrin Peninsula. Its narrow neck has allowed it to be fenced off, creating a 1,000 square kilometre wildlife refuge, the largest in the world. A unique opportunity to exclude feral cats and foxes. Where the road passes over a grid, the break in the fence is guarded by electronic German shepherds. With the all clear from the vet, it's time to release some of the animals onto the peninsula. These are the pioneers of Australia's greatest wildlife recovery project, paving the way for the future of their species. But of all Shark Bay's natural splendours, its dolphins are surely the most enchanting. Nowhere else in the world do wild dolphins so willingly come to shore to commune with humans. These magnificent creatures have broken all the rules about what it means to be wild. At least 7 bottle-nosed dolphins regularly visit Monkey Mia Beach, and 100,000 people a year come to greet them. Shark Bay's rangers have learnt that the dolphins must be fed only a third of their daily food requirement if they're to remain independent of humans. Conservation and Land Management Ranger Roger Syme has come to know them well.
They certainly enjoy human contact. I think it's very much a case of mutual curiosity. We're large-brained animals, so are they. And if you think of life out there in the dolphin world, other than catching fish and mating, there's probably not a lot else to do. They probably look to us for entertainment as much as anything. And you really can sense the goodwill between humans and dolphins down there, and I think they get off on that as much as we do.
It's truly a wonder that these wild and gentle creatures of the sea choose to spend their free time with us. It's just another piece of the magic of Shark Bay. Truly one of nature's most inspiring sanctuaries. The reef is a combination of more than 2,400 individual reefs, most formed within the last 8,000 years. The outer barrier sits astride the edge of the continental shelf and acts as a giant buffer against open ocean currents, allowing corals to grow in the relatively sheltered waters. Over time, wind and currents heaped fine coral sediments onto the reef, creating wonders like Heron Island, a coral cay and one of the most southerly islands of the reef. For some, Heron Island is a place to nest. This reef is one of the world's major breeding grounds for both the green and loggerhead turtle. As many as 1,200 will lay eggs in these sands every summer. About 100 eggs are produced in each clutch. They're covered and incubated by the warmth of the sun for 6 to 7 weeks before the hatchlings emerge and scurry into the sea. Perhaps only 1 in 1,000 will survive to adulthood. They run the gauntlet of predators like black-tipped reef sharks lurking in the shallows. The coast of Australia, in places beautiful beyond belief. From the glories of the Great Barrier Reef to the lush primeval rainforest of Daintree. From Lord Howe Island, an astonishing Pacific paradise, to Shark Bay, where wild dolphins weave their magic. These are some of Australia's greatest wonders. These are treasures of the coast. The Great Barrier Reef. It's the world's largest living organism, spanning some 348,000 square kilometers. So enormous it can be seen from space, and yet its miniature reef builders, the coral polyps, are barely visible to the naked eye. Limestone creations in myriad colors and shapes adorn this World Heritage Area for its length of more than 2,000 kilometers. These are both gardens and fortresses in which hundreds of thousands of creatures make their home. Those turtles that survive will travel the Pacific Ocean for 12 years before returning to Heron Island to breed. Manta rays also cruise the shallows. Despite their imposing size, they're harmless filter feeders, herding plankton with their 5-meter wide pectoral fins. To hunt and avoid being hunted, it helps to be camouflaged. Cuttlefish can transform their appearance within a second. They change color using minute skin cells called chromatophores, and they use their muscles to alter their surface texture. This ability to blend with the background makes the cuttlefish the reef's great master of disguise.